the Public Works Committee for Thursday, June 30th, 2016. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Engelbach?
Here.
Mr. Barris? Mr. Brain?
He's here.
He's here. Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Guillory?
Here.
Mr. Hunter? President Landry? Mr. Latour?
Here.
Ms. Mayo? Here. Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Vice Chairman Scott?
Here.
Mrs. Trimmy? Here. Mr. White?
Here.
And Chairman Farnham.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 3 is appearance by Mr. Ron Childers, Energy Customer Service Representative, for an update on Energy's preparation for the 2016 hurricane season. State your name and address for the record, please.
Ron Childers with Entergy. First of all, thank y'all very much for giving us the opportunity to come talk to y'all today. I wanted to just mention a little bit about energy storm preparation. Storm season kicked off on June 1st. We've already had like 3 named storms in the Atlantic. Just wanted to let everybody know that we do prepare and practice for this for year round. So we have a plan of continuous preparation where we train and get storm ready. We actually held an internal storm drill on May 18th. When we do our storm drill, we practice just like it's a regular hurricane. Hits, we practice logistics, how much equipment we need, how much manpower. So we went through that whole drill, and I'm basically here today to let you know that we're ready in case something does happen. Again, each storm is a little unique. It doesn't always have to be a hurricane before we put those plans in action. But I just want to give you all a peace of mind that we've got everything in place. I've also been holding similar meetings with, like Charles, the sheriff's office, certain elected officials to give the same message. As another important part of the storm is our ability to keep our customers informed. So we have a website, also an app on the iPhone. You can check view outages, without coming back to your house and look at that. So we made changes on that as well. And again, one other piece, just real brief, is that, when we do have a storm, that safety is our number one priority. So I know everybody wants it back fast, but we do take safety in consideration in doing that. And so that's the basic message. I know it was pretty short, but I would open up to y'all. If y'all had any questions about us or our preparation, I'd be happy to address it.
Mr. McMillan.
Ron.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for what y'all do. I saw Energy and work firsthand back during the hurricanes, all the ones we've had in this area. You guys do stage well. You're pre-staged and ready, and y'all bring in forces from all over the United States to help us. I feel very secure in what you guys are doing, and thank you for being ready, and thank you for being there if something happens. I appreciate what y'all do.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you brought up the staging, too, because I want to thank the jury and Brian and Jason Barnes as well that we have secured an agreement with y'all for the Burton Coliseum as a staging site. So that is one of the sites that we use in case we do need it. We also have the West Cal Arena and Sulphur's another. So, again, we practice. We hope it is only practice, that it doesn't actually come here. But, again, when we go through our storm drill, it's everything from, how do we get our logistics, lodging, all that stuff in place.
Mr. Guillory.
Thank you. I just want to say, Mr. Ron definitely helps out. He came to my neighborhood watch meeting about 2 weeks ago and was able to help people with their lights out, was also able to help people to put lights up in the area. So it was also you and that gentleman in the back, right?
Yes, Mr. Dietrich Taylor.
Mr. Dietrich, I want to thank you all for coming out, and they will, if you need them to go in your area or anything, they definitely will come out. Thank you, Mr. Ron, for everything.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I was just curious, normally this time of year we see a lot of trucks out trimming trees along power lines and all that. Is that taking place right now? I don't remember if I've seen a lot of trucks lately.
Yes, sir. We are trimming trees. We have actually a cycle plan that they go through, so it may not be every neighborhood every year. However, if you do have an area, I know where we're at this meeting, they had an issue in one of their areas, a specific area that really needs it, let us know. And, even though it may not be in that cycle plan, we'll still go out and evaluate it. And if we need to, we'll trim it.
A lot of times I get calls about leaning poles, and at what point does Energy consider a leaning pole to be a leaning pole?
Well, that's a very good question.
It's good for the public to know right now since you're on TV. Let them.
That's fine. And we do get a lot of calls from that. we take a look at them. You know, we'll have an engineering system, whatever, take a look at it, one of our line folks. If we don't feel, you know, that it's still functional, that it's solid, it's not, you know, it's not rotten, it's still solid, you know, and it's just an aesthetic look, more than likely we're probably not going to be quick to put it, you know, just to make it straight. But if there is an issue with it when we go out, whether it's a broken cross arm or it's not solid or whatever, then yes, we'll put in an order to replace that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think I know the ones you're talking about on Lake Street. There's some pretty good leaning poles on Lake
Oh,
Street.
yeah.
Mr. Brame.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ron,
Yes, sir.
I'm probably going to go off,
That's okay.
jump ships here, but maybe you can help me. Graywood area, they've been having a lot of outages out there. I don't know if you're aware of it. Are you?
Yes, sir.
You're smiling?
I'm not really smiling, but yes, I'm aware of it.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I was rushing to get back here because I was out there all day. So,
Okay.
yes, we are very aware of the issues
Okay.
at Greatwood.
We're going to fix it?
Yes, sir. So I'll share with y'all today. I mean, we've been out there. We know that they've experienced some outages. We had crews out there, and we've been troubleshooting the issue. A couple things to keep in mind. I'll be very careful how I say this, but, you know, underground is very nice. I love underground. Everybody loves underground. But when we do have a problem, it is very difficult to pinpoint the exact location. When you have an overhead line, you can basically drive a truck. Do we have a limb in the tree? You know, is there a fuse hanging? But underground, it takes specialized equipment. You know, it takes a little bit longer. So that's one part of it. The other part of it was this particular issue is very intermittent. It's not staying out. So we go look, and then we find it, and then it clears up. And then, okay, well, we think it's going to hold. So we've been kind of fighting both of those. I think today we've narrowed it down to a piece of equipment, and we do have a replacement. And we communicated that to the HOA out there today that
Okay.
we've got a plan in place to get that in.
Okay. Yeah, because I've probably been getting calls in the last month,
Yes, sir.
three times a week, and then they'll get a report that it's an hour or two to fix it, and then they'll get another report that it'll be 7 to 8 hours to fix it. It's just,
Well, part of the
but as long as y'all found you think you pinpoint the problem and got it, that's great.
right. Well, until we actually, I mean, we think we got it narrowed down. So, but we'll know when we replace that piece of
Okay.
equipment. As far as the time piece, a good portion of that is an automated generated call, and so that comes out of our DOC office, because if we say 30 minutes and it goes 8 hours, then, you know, it's one thing. If we say 8 and we get it fixed in 45 minutes,
Everybody's happy.
people's a little happier. So they do tend to push those times out sometimes a little
Yeah.
bit further.
I got you.
But we do try to get them in as
Well, I
soon as we
appreciate
can.
y'all working on it. I know that the residents out there will be very thrilled.
Yes, sir. They're,
And you know that too.
yes, sir.
Thank you, Ron.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brame. Ron, we really appreciate y'all's effort on this front. I know I personally work very closely with Energy from the industrial end of things, and I know there's a lot of coordination that has to go on. And you guys do a tremendous job, and always keep the customer, the residential customer base on the forefront, in a good balance with industry. So we appreciate all your efforts, and we applaud your service.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And I'll say one other quick thing, and then I'll get out. But, you know, we were talking a little bit before, but, you know, for us, right after a storm like the day one, you know, that's a very critical area for us, because we first do our assessments. We have to understand how many lines we have out, how many broken cross arms we have, how many fuses that are out. And so during that period, if a lot of folks are still in town, they might not see the activity they want to see, where we're up in bucket trucks, but it doesn't mean that they're not doing something, you know. Well, I see them, they're sitting in a truck. Well, they're sitting in a truck, but they're talking to the dispatchers, and they're talking to their scouts. And so those first couple of days is really an assessment piece, and it may be the second or third day before you actually see, you know, where we're out there putting fuses back in, putting line back up. So again, we, you know, just appreciate everybody's patience on that and understand it, and that, you know, we want to get everybody back in as soon as we can.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, one more question.
Yes, sir.
On another topic. you know, with all the growth and all the new buildings going up and new power services needed, you know, I know it's tough for Energy to kind of keep up sometimes because we get those calls, hey, I can't get my power, I've been waiting. So what is Energy doing trying to, are you hiring new staff? Are y'all trying to ramp up to be able to get power to people sooner? If you just want to touch base on that, that'd be great.
Yes, sir. We have seen a tremendous amount of growth.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the big industry, I guess, tends to get a lot of the headlines, but once that comes in, then you start having a lot of the commercial that follows after that. So in addition to the, you know, the big stuff, you're having the, you know, the grocery stores and the, you know, as I would call it, maybe the mom and pops type stuff. So, but all those still take the same resources. So we are, you know, looking at that. As far as staffing, I mean, we do have to follow guidelines and stuff from the PSC and stuff, so we can't, you know, just, but we take a look at those work and we manage it, and if we do find the need that we need to shift some folks around, then we'll do that.
And I see you're subbing out. How much sub work are you doing to bring people in to help Energy with this growth? I mean,
We have brought in quite a few, especially on the underground stuff, and, you know, like in subdivision stuff, as far as doing a lot of the underground work. You'll probably see quite a few contractors doing that work.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Move to item 4. Consideration of making a recommendation with reference to adopting a resolution approving
Move on
active
forward
sale
to adopt.
agreements for Ham Reed Road Extension projects in Ward 3. We have a motion by Mr. Brame, second by Mr. Collins. Any discussion on this item? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion will carry. Item 5, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to adopting a resolution approving active sale
Move
agreement
on 5 to
for the
adopt.
Tank Farm Road Site Distance Project in Ward 3. Motion by Mr. Brame, second by Mr. Guillory. Mr. Scott.
Tim, can you explain the site distance? I mean, is it, they have a turning problem? I mean, can't see, what is the,
Well, as you're probably aware of, at the end of this particular road, there is a Calcasieu refinery, and the tankers that run up and down that road, and there's some residential, and it is beneficial to have this improved. This was the only turn on the entire road where there was an issue. We'd received a few calls on that, so
right.
we're just trying to be proactive and get out there and try and do something. So.
all right, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion on this item? Any objection? That motion will carry. Item 6, consideration of making a recommendation
6
with
to adopt
reference to
resolution.
adopting a resolution approving an act of donation agreement for the Metzger Road Bridge project in Ward 8. Motion by Mr. Latour, second by Ms. Mayo. Any discussion on that one? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion will carry. Item 7, consideration of making a recommendation with
Move on
reference
7.
to adopting a resolution approving an active sale agreement for the Coach William Drive Extension Project in Ward 4. Motion by Mr. McMillan, second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? Objection? That motion will carry. Consideration of making a recommendation with reference to adopting a resolution approving an active sale agreement for the Coach Williams Drive Extension Project in Ward 4. Motion by Mr. McMillan, second by Mr. Brame. Discussion. Objection. That motion will carry. Item 9,
Move to adopt.
consideration of making a recommendation with reference to adopting an ordinance and/or amending existing ordinances to establish a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on Dovick Road in Ward 3. Motion by Mr. Brame, second by Mr. Scott. Any discussion? Any objection? That motion will carry. Item 10, consideration
10
of
all
making a
votes.
recommendation with reference to adopting resolutions accepting the following subdivisions. A, the Courtyards Part 1, Phase 2 subdivision. B, Orleans Road, Phase 1 subdivision. C, Wallace Point subdivision, Phase 1. Motion by Mr. White, second by Mr. Collins. Any discussion on these items? Any objection? That motion will carry. Item 11, any other matters for consideration? Need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Thank you for putting my name up there. I didn't pray twice, Jay. This is my second time praying. No, but I'm cool with that. I see my name up here to pray next meeting. Oh, yeah, I will. I'll do it. I'm just saying. I didn't know. I've done it twice.
Are we ready?
This one's good. No, Jay, leave it. I got it. I need all the help, Jay.
Pray for you.
I love you, Jay.
The purpose of today's committee meeting is to formulate an agenda for the regular meeting of police jury on July 7th, 2016. The chair will entertain a motion at this time to pull item number 19.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMillan, a second by Mr. Gidry to pull number 19. And as soon as I find it, we'll proceed. Jesus. All right. Now take appropriate action on the terms of the following members of various board and districts and further adopt resolutions approving the appointments or reappointments. A, Ms. Joyce Doucette, resignation, Recreation District Number 1 of Ward 8, Mr. Latour. Recommends that Mr. Joshua E. Underwood be appointed.
Got a motion? Move.
Second.
We have a motion by
appoint
Mr.
Joshua
Latour, and second by Ms. Trimmy to appoint Mr. Underwood. B, Mr. Sonny Watkins, resignation, Waterworks District Number 7 of Ward 4 and 6, District 14, Mrs. Trimmy, deferred for 30 days on April the 7th.
Move to appoint Stoney Martin.
Have a motion by Mr. McMillan to appoint Stoney Martin,
Second.
and a second by Mrs. Trimmy. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. C, Ms. Debbie Fontenot, Waterworks District Number 8 of Ward 4, 3, and 8, District 10, Mr. Latour, deferred for 30 days on June the 2nd, 2016. What's your pleasure?
I'd like to reappoint Ms. Debbie Fontenot.
We have a motion by Mr. Latour to reappoint Ms. Debbie Fontenot and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. D, Mr. Joe Palermo Jr., West Calcasieu Airport Authority, Police Jury Representative, Mr. Andrew Pont, Mr. Barris. We have a motion to reappoint Mr. Joe Palermo and a
Second.
by Mr. White and a second by Mrs. Trimmy. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. E, Mr. Gary Simeon.
Move to reappoint Mr. Gary Simmons.
We have a
Second.
motion by Mr. Guidry and a second by Mr. Brame to reappoint Mr. Gary Simeon. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Dean Ford, Waterworks Number 12 of Ward 3, District 6, Mr. Brame and Mr. Scott.
Move to reappoint Mr.
Second.
Dean Ford.
Motion by Mr. Brame and a second by Mr. Scott to reappoint. Is there any discussion or any opposition? Motion carries. Ms. Carrie Vick, Community Center Playground District
Defer for
Number
30 days.
7 of Ward 2, District. Mr. Latour moves to defer for 30 days and second by Mr. McMillan. Any discussion? Any opposition? That motion carries. Mr. Brian K. Ledoux, Community Center
reappoint.
Playground District Number 5 of Ward 5, Mrs. Trimmy moves to reappoint, and second by Mr. McMillan. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Donald D. Coleman, Community Center Playground District Number 3 of Ward 7, Mr. Barris is absent.
Move to defer to July 7th.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. McMillan to refer to July the 2nd, and a second by Mr. Latour. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Johnny Stanley, Community Center Playground District Number 2 of Ward 4, Sulphur Parks and
Move to
Recreation.
reappoint if it pleases the chair. It's
We-
his direct appointment.
We have a motion by Mr. Fornum and a second by
I'll second.
Mr. McMillan. I have no objection. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries.
Move to reappoint Chad Kellogg to the
Second.
Recreation Board.
We have a motion to reappoint Mr. Chad Kellogg, Community Center Playground District Number 1 of Ward 6. Mrs. Tremy moves, and Kevin White seconds. And last but not least, Mr. Jonathan Simeon, Community Center Playground District Number 4, Ward 1. Mr. White moves to reappoint Mr. Simeon, and a second by Mr. Collins. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Any other matters to come before the? We have a motion to adjourn and a second. Meeting stands adjourned.